Here in front of me I have an 18 horsepower overhead valve Briggs engine. This is a machine that I got in to work on for a customer. It needs a serious carburetor rebuild. It really doesn't run right, especially when you go over bumps or around corners. And there's my dad mowing. Basically we're gonna start tearing this carburetor off so that we can put it in the acid bath that I have, and then we are going to do a full cleanup of that. I got a full rebuild kit for it for Briggs and Stratton, and then we're going to do a full tune-up, new oil filter, which the wrong size one is on here too. I don't know if you can see that, but it is supposed to be a little bit bigger, the bigger size. Spark plug, oil change, oil filter, sharpen the blades, and wash the whole thing up because it's really dirty. So we're going to go ahead and start disassembling this carburetor, so that I think it's also going to need a little bit of fuel line maybe, and a new fuel filter because it's getting kind of dry rotted. So we'll grab a whole bunch of parts here and there and get started on this. First thing you're going to want to do is take this shroud off here. So we're going to loosen all these bolts up, starting with this one on this side. So since you can't get it with your ratchet, you're going to need to get a wrench. Now you have the shroud off, make sure and check under it for nests and unnecessary grease and dirt. This one definitely needs to be washed out. Now you gotta go ahead and just remove these two 3/8 bolts right here that go into the block. This holds the carburetor on. You just want to take your 3/8, just loosen them up, top and bottom, and then they'll come off really easy once you've loosened them up. Just take your socket there and just do it by hand, loosen them up by hand. After we do this, we're going to have to move this thing around a little bit, pull the linkage off, and then pull the wires off the bottom of the fuel bowl, because this has a anti-afterfire fuel shutoff solenoid on the bottom of the bowl. It is a newer engine, 2002 in fact. Now that we have the fuel line disconnected and the carburetor unbolted from the block, we can go ahead and pull it out. Make sure that your breather tube here for your crankcase, your crankcase breather is unhooked from the bottom of the carburetor there. Go ahead and unhook your wires on the solenoid. Some styles of solenoids are a little bit different than this, but this is the standard little 2-prong one with the short stubby Briggs solenoid on it. Then you can go ahead and pull your choke out, because that just kind of will slide right out of there. It just goes in a sliding kind of oval right there. Go ahead and slide that out. When you put it back in, you've got to hook it up and under like that so it actuates the choke like that, not turned around like that. Then you can go ahead and take off your return spring for your throttle. Let's go ahead and take that off. Then we're going to go ahead and just turn our carburetor 90 degrees and slide our throttle linkage out. Now your carburetor is completely disconnected from your tractor, and now I'll show you how to disassemble it and get ready to put it in either your sonic cleaner or your acid bath, however you're going to clean your carburetor up. So you have your carburetor here. I have mine on the driveway sitting on a rag, but what you're going to want to do first off is take off these two pieces of plastic on either side of the actual carburetor. These are just, plastic pieces for the fuel to travel down this end and the air to come in this end. They really have no function other than connecting the carburetor to the block itself. So you're going to want to go ahead and get a 7/16 wrench, open-ended, put it on this little nut right here. It's on this big long threaded bolt. Just go ahead and loosen that up. Then turn it over and do the other side. Watch for fuel. That's a 3/8 side, that's why it's not doing it. You got both of your 7/16 nuts right there, just set them there. You don't need the black plastic piece. This carburetor, now, all you're going to need is a 5/16 inch wrench right there. And then you can start unscrewing these little through bolts to disconnect it from this bigger plastic piece. Get your 5/16 wrench here and go ahead and start loosening these up. Both of them. Eventually they'll be loose enough where you can just go and untwist them yourself, just like that. Pull that one out and get this one. Pull that one out. Pull your carburetor off, and there goes the fuel. There was a reason that there was some oil in the crankcase, there's some gas in the crankcase as well. This has been just flooding the crankcase with a little bit of gas, which means it does really need a rebuild. So we're going to go ahead and just pull the solenoid off the bottom, because that will get damaged when you put it in the acid bath, since it is an electronic part. Take your wrench right here. I have a 7/16 wrench. It's very thin profile as well, which is great for starter, holding the rear nut on all starters, because it's really hard to get another wrench in there, and sometimes you twist the wire off of the brushes at the bottom of the starter. So I have a 7/16 on one end, and the other end is a little bit odd. It's 17/32, and that is what I used to get these off with, because it's a little bit in between. It's not quite as big as, not quite as small as 7/16, and not as big as 1/2 inch. It's kind of, I think it's probably a metric on the bottom of this. Go ahead and just pull that off, loosen that up. You can pull the solenoid right out of the bottom here, and that's what you're presented with. It's basically just a little needle that goes up and down when you turn on the ignition switch. So we'll set that right there. We don't need that. Don't really need to save any of these gaskets since they're all in the rebuild kit, but I will anyway. Always good to have spares, just in case. And go ahead and twist your bowl off. This actually doesn't look too bad. There is some rust, but I am going to throw it in the acid bath anyway. And so I'll go ahead and show you what I use for the acid bath. Throw this in. We'll wait about an hour. We will then wash it out with hot water, spray it with some compressed air, put it back together, put it on the tractor, see what happens. So that is what I have right there for my acid bath Napa carburetor cleaner with a dipping basket in it. So what I do is just take all the rubber parts, because they'll disintegrate anyway. Take all the rubber parts off. Plastic you don't want to leave in there too long, like the little 90-degree bend there, and your plastic for your choke there, and for your adjustment. They won't disintegrate if you just leave it in there for like an hour or two. If you leave it in there for days, they will eventually kind of melt off, because it is acid. I've never had a problem because I never leave them in that long. But what I usually do is strip all the gaskets off, lift my basket out, which is right here. Then I just plop my carburetor in there, as well as my bowl. I'll just throw them in there. Set it down gently back in the bottom. You usually want to use gloves when you're doing this, but I can't find mine. I usually use those Permatex latex gloves. And then just put the cover on it lightly, leave it in there for about an hour, and then I'll show you where we go from there. Now I have the carburetor here down in the sink down in the basement, and I literally just get the water run really hot. I left it in for a little bit more than, I think I left it in for more like 2 hours, because I got sidetracked by accident. But so I literally just go right under really hot water, and the debris literally just falls and melts off, most of it anyway. So here we have the carburetor, and I've got my rebuild kit right here. This kit comes with little extras here and there, but basically I'm going to use everything. here. So we're going to just go ahead and start reassembly. Very basic. Got my new ones here, so I'll go ahead and put the needle in. Drop it in the carburetor. Just like that. Take our new needle here. Get the piece of dirt out of there. And just put it right through. Just sits in there, nice and pretty like that. Now we have our new bowl gasket right here, which we can go ahead and put around the outside of the carburetor, just like that. There's a little lip that it sits down on. Make sure it's not twisted, and make sure it's even all the way around that little lip. Make sure it's not twisted. Go ahead and put your bowl back on. Put your new gasket on your electric fuel solenoid right there, and then just screw it back in. Take your 17/32, or if you have another way to get it off, go ahead and take that, tighten that right down, and there is your carburetor all back together. Now I also have gaskets for rebuilding this part, which I will also use. Go ahead and disassemble that gasket on the end of the part that goes to the block, which is right there. No, that's the part that goes to the carburetor. This goes to the carburetor. This goes to the block. We got a new gasket for that too. So we can take that O-ring out. We have another O-ring on this side for the carburetor side, and then we've got another O-ring right here, which is the one that goes up in for the shroud there. This one's the hard one to get out. There we go. So go ahead and put on our new one here after we just kind of, pre this up a little bit. It's not a bad idea to soak these in a little brake clean or something too, but I don't have any. So we're going to have to go with this. Just a rag. Clean it off. That'll be good enough though. Just make sure none of that dirt's in there. Go ahead and take your new O-ring. Put it around the outside, right here. Then go ahead and take this new one that goes right here. Full gasket kit. Awesome. I love gaskets. New gaskets. Getting new gaskets is like Christmas, because it just looks so much better. Especially when they're red and not black like the old ones. Look awesome. So then there are those two parts. You can go ahead and put this gasket on, which goes right here, and then go ahead and put our carburetor on like that, like so. Put these through, these new ones. Just like that. Once you have those in, go ahead and tighten them down. Tighten them down real well too. Don't want any air leaks. There's that part. Then we'll put this on like this. Making sure that that kind of oval side goes to the carburetor towards the choke side. Then we'll take our 7/16 nuts right here. Go ahead and put those on. Tighten those down with our 7/16 that we have after we get these finger tight. Then we got a shiny new carburetor, all reassembled and ready to go back in the tractor. Well, the sun is setting, as you can see, and I just got the carburetor done. I'm not going to run it for a long time because I don't like running engines without the shroud, because it's really not good for them. Had a spark tester on there earlier. But I did just finish up the carburetor rebuild. I put a new piece of fuel line on there so it's not leaking anymore, which might have been part of the problem too. It might have been drawing air through that. I still have to do my tune-up and wash it, but I did not put the shroud on yet because I do want to wash the inside of the shroud and some of the just the gunk on the inside of the engine. But I'm just going to see if it starts. Haven't tried it yet.